Okay, pastel vanilla clown female, the mother of the spot nose female that we looked at in the last video. So we're pulling a clutch of eggs just a few days after her daughter laid, and she looks like she's sitting on a nice big clutch now. Hi guys, it's Rob from Royal Balls. What I'd like to do today is to close out my breeder series with a season ending video. We'll take a look at some females that have laid and what we need to be doing to get those females back into condition for next season. For me and my season, I have stopped pairing more as a convenience for me to give me a couple of months break, but I still have a few snakes left to lay and my incubator is almost full. So for me, the best part of the season, when we get all our hatchlings and we see the results of all the hard work, that's still to come. Okay, pastel vanilla clown female, the mother of the spot nose female that we looked at in the last video. So we're pulling a clutch of eggs just a few days after her daughter laid, and she looks like she's sitting on a nice big clutch. Now, she did start laying this morning at about 7 o'clock. I caught her laying the first egg, but I've been out all day, so unable to pull the clutch, and it is now 5 o'clock in the evening, so it's some 10 hours later. She is sitting coiled around the eggs, but you can see that there are also two, you see the other one down at the bottom there, two rollout eggs. And I have had quite a few rollout eggs this season, and I think the reason is because I'm not using any substrate, so the female can't burrow down and make a nice little nest inside the substrate, and so the eggs tend to roll out and she has trouble gathering them up. The eggs are perfectly fine. We have had some rollout eggs this season, so I may actually start to put my females on some sort of substrate so that they can actually burrow down and make a nice little hollow and gather the eggs together. So we'll take these two rollouts out first and get those in the egg box. I'll mark them up for weigh up. So just get them out of her way. She has been sitting on the eggs for quite some time, and so she might have recovered a little bit and be a little bit more angry. So let's see if we can get her off. Yes, she is flinching. Let's see if we can unhook the tail. She's hanging on for dear life here, but we'll get the tail off. And there are 6 more eggs in there, and she is obviously empty. She's had plenty of time to lay, so just checking to see whether she's empty, and yes she is. So we'll get her in a bath of water and get these marked up. She has given us 8 eggs, and I'll just remove this one from the top here so that it goes in the egg box nice and easy. These are all coming out quite nicely. So we'll get rid of that. I'll just show you guys the eggs here. 8 eggs. No slugs, which is always good news. Mark that down on the clutch card. 8 eggs, 0 slugs. So that's the clutch card, clutch 9, 2021, laid on the 14th of September Pastel Vanilla Clown to the Leo Lemon Blast Desert Ghost Male. 8 eggs, no slugs, and these are due to hatch on the 13th of November, that's 60 days. Let's candle these just to make sure they've got good veins. They all look good, so they're all going in the incubator anyway. Good veins. Good veins. Yep. That one's upside down, that has veins on the bottom. Good veins, good veins. That one is also upside down, but has good veins on the bottom. And that one also has good veins. The embryo is down here on the side. So again, as per my usual technique, I am not reorienting these eggs with the embryo at the top, and the embryo actually attaches to the inside of the egg after about 12 to 24 hours. So because these eggs are being collected a little bit late, they've been sitting around for about 10 hours, it's actually more important that the eggs do not get reorientated at this stage, just in case we kill the embryos by moving them. So they're all going to stay exactly as they are. So we've got 8 good eggs ready to go in the incubator. There we go. Put the lid on. Put the clutch card. We'll get that into the incubator. We'll get this female cleaned off. We'll get her weighed and we'll get her into a refreshed tub as per normal. So that's clutch number 9. 8 good eggs. And this is going to be another double het Desert Ghost Clown clutch. So let's hope for plenty of females from this clutch. Awesome. But for now, I'm focused on recovery for my females that have laid. So let's take a look at some females that have laid for me this year, what they look like now and what we need to do and how long it takes for these snakes to recover. So let's have a look at the Super Pastel Spot Nose Vanilla Yellow Belly Hetfer Clown female. She laid last week, about a week ago, and she actually ate yesterday, but you can see that she's already going into shed. This is also a hormonal shed, just like the prelay shed, and it's a sure sign that they have reached the stage where they are not incubating eggs. The hormonal change indicates that they've let go. This girl did eat, but this is a first time female. She gave a nice big clutch of eggs, 7 eggs I think. But first time females tend to be a little bit smaller and they lose a bigger percentage of their body weight giving eggs because of that. So this girl lost 50% of her body weight, and you can see her spine down here. Her belly is still a little bit concave and she's basically skin and bone. Now this girl needs to eat and get back into condition, but as I said, she did eat yesterday, so I won't disturb her too much. But my job for this girl now is to get back that lost weight onto her. So she needs to be fed on a regular basis, not necessarily power fed or fed large meals. I find that females, once they've laid, tend to eat smaller meals a little bit easier. She got a small rat yesterday. The important thing is that they eat regularly. Don't overfeed, because as they get back into condition, you may want to breed again next season and you'll have to simulate an increase in food abundance. So get them back into condition, but don't overfeed, and then you can raise the food intake as they start to build for next season. So that's the job for now, is to get this female back into shape. She is going into shed, that's normal. They will shed either before they eat, or certainly they will shed just after they start to eat, after they've laid their eggs. So something to watch out for is that also that post lay shed, which is also a hormonal shed. So this girl lost 50% of her body weight. She laid last week and she is eating again. And this is her mum, who laid just 4 days later. She also accepted a meal last night, so she's eating again within the week. This is a larger snake. She's bred for me for the last 4 seasons, regular as clockwork, and she's lost a little bit less of her body weight. She's a bigger snake, so she's maybe lost about 40% of her body weight, giving that clutch of eggs. And again, same job for her, is to get her back into condition. Not overfeed, but make sure they do get well fed. They bounce back very, very quickly. So this girl ate yesterday. I have no worries about her. You can see also that she has lost a lot of weight. You can still see her spine down here. So don't underestimate how much effort, how much body weight these girls put into giving us a clutch of eggs. This girl laid about 2 weeks ago. This is my possible double het exanthic clown. She is eating again. You can see she has actually already shed, so her condition is already starting to come back. She's eaten 3 or 4 meals now, and she's starting to gain that weight back. Still skinny, but she's eating, and this girl will be back in condition in just 2 or 3 weeks with a few more decent meals. This is what we're looking for with our females, bouncing back very quickly. This girl here laid 2 months ago. This is the pastel het pied female that gave that clutch of nice pied offspring. She has been eating. She was a small female, quite thin when she laid, but she has been eating and has recovered all her weight. She's looking quite good actually after just 2 months. So again, this female now, she's been eating on a weekly basis. This female will I'll reduce her feeds, give her a decent meal once every 10 days to 2 weeks. So there's another female fully recovered from her laying. This is my killer clown female who laid a clutch of eggs a month ago. She's a small snake. She only gave 4 eggs. She is eating again, and you can see that within that month she has actually regained most of her condition. You can still just vaguely see her spine, but she has put on almost all of that weight that she lost. Again, bouncing back really quickly. So within a week or so of being removed from the eggs, she was eating. She shed within the first 10 days, and she's eating regular meals on a weekly basis for now. Once she's gained that weight back, and this girl is almost there, I'll reduce that frequency of feeding to about once every 10 days. Don't want to overfeed them, and then as in the run up to next season we can increase the food frequency, the food intake, to stimulate breeding again. So this girl laid about a month ago, and just to give you an idea that it's not all plain sailing, this is my vanilla clown. She laid about 3 weeks ago, and she hasn't eaten yet. She's still refusing to eat, probably still thinks that she's on eggs, although she has actually shed. You can see that her colour has come back. When I offer food on an evening, she is out and about and shows interest, but she hasn't actually eaten yet. This is again a first time female, so she lost quite a bit of her weight, and this is one that I really do want to get eating. She will eat in her own good time, but you can see that again she lost a lot of her body weight. She's very, very thin. You can see that she's sunk in along the sides, and you can see her spinal ridge sticking out along her back there. So she's lost a lot of weight, and that weight needs to get back, and we can't do that unless she starts eating. So this is one to watch. It's not all. Most of my females go back onto food relatively quickly, certainly within a week. This girl is holding out on me. There's always one. It's never all plain sailing, but she will eat. This girl is in no danger at the moment. She still has some reserves left, so we need to get her eating. This is the Silky Way girl that laid for me back in July, and her eggs have actually hatched, and they were the clutch that 4 of the eggs died, and 2 of the eggs again were severely deformed. You can't tell from looking at this girl. She has put back on all her condition. She's eating quite regularly again now, but this girl will probably be rested this season. She's given me 2 bad clutches now with 2 different males, so there appears to be an issue with this female. But she is eating again, regained her condition. She's looking quite fit and healthy. Still a little bit of weight to put back on, but this girl's doing okay. And just so that you can compare, this is the spot nose female that laid a clutch of eggs back in February, and she has completely recovered from laying her eggs. She's been eating quite well on a weekly basis, and I've now slowed down her feedings because she has actually gained all that weight back. She was a larger female to start with and didn't lose too much of her body weight, perhaps only about 40% of her body weight to give a clutch of eggs, and she put that back on relatively quickly. So this is a female that laid in February, and you can see she's fully recovered already. So this is 6 or 7 months later. This girl will be going back to ARP. I won't be breeding her again this season. She served her purpose, giving us a clutch of Desert Ghost hets. So you can see she has completely recovered. And this big girl here, the pastel clown female that gave the clutch of double hets, the Desert Ghost clown double hets, also fully recovered. This is a big snake, and she's been eating quite well. She still has a little bit of weight left to put back on, but she'll be good to go again this next season. Like I say, she's a big female, at least 2.5 to 3 kilos, several years old, a regular breeder, and regular females, larger females, it takes a little bit less out of them breeding than it does your first time breeding females. So just bear that in mind. Your smaller first time females will actually lose a greater percentage of their body weight than a bigger seasoned female will when she lays a clutch of eggs. So this is the pastel clown, fully recovered from laying her eggs in February. Both of these 2 snakes are now being fed every 10 days to 2 weeks. They're not being fed every week. They don't need to be fed every week. If you feed them weekly, they end up spending all their time digesting food, which I also don't think is particularly good for them, but it also makes it more difficult to simulate an increase in food abundance at the start of the breeding season. So these girls now are getting a decent sized rat about every 10 days to 2 weeks. So people have asked me, how long should snakes be rested before they will breed again? When can I start pairing? Most of my females are on a pretty regular cycle. They lay once a year, and they lay at approximately the same time every year. So as a rough guide, and this is a rough guide, I would say 6 months rest before you start to pair them, and then pairing for 6 months before they lay again at approximately the same time of year. Some females will lay every year, some females won't, and it's up to you to make that call and decide which of your females are going to be ready. So 6 months off, 6 months pairing, and all being well, if you've done your preparation and followed some of the principles that we've looked at here, your females will be ready to lay again. Some females will take a year off all by themselves. Not much you can do about that. If they're ready to go, you can pair them, but if they decide they're not going to go, that's entirely in their hands, not yours. Okay, while we're on the subject, many people have asked me again about first time females and when is the right time to pair a female. And there are guidelines out there, but there's an awful lot of misinformation as well. I think that the tendency these days is, because our snakes grow very fast and mature very fast, they're fed quite well, there is a tendency to push the envelope, and 18 months and 1500 grams as a guideline. I see many people are pushing those limits as well. I do have some comments to make about some of the arguments that I've heard for breeding snakes early. They don't carry weighing scales in the wild, and they'll breed when they're ready. I'm strongly against that approach for the simple reason that snakes' breeding cycles and their reproductive strategies are very different to mammals, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll show you some first time females, and we'll talk about snakes' response to stress hormones and how it is perfectly possible to breed your snakes to death, both males and females. And it's primarily to do with their response to the stress hormone cortisol. Mammals and reptiles respond to cortisol in very different ways. So let's put some science behind that. I would never tell you not to attempt it. If you're very experienced and want to have a go, by all means, who am I to tell you not to do it? But I just give you some of my thoughts and some science behind some of the myths so that you can make up your own mind. This girl here, deep in shed, is my ex-clown female. I weighed her the other day and she's well over 1500 grams. She is 2.5 years old, and I wanted to show this girl here and talk a little bit about deciding when is the right time to breed your first time females. Remember, we've talked about first time females going off food for longer and losing a greater percentage of their body weight in order for them to give you a clutch of eggs. So you must make sure that they have sufficient reserves in order to see them through the breeding process. And I've heard many breeders say they don't carry weighing scales in the wild and that they'll breed when they're ready. To me, that shows a lack of understanding of how snakes actually work. Their response to the stress hormone cortisol is not like mammals. When times get tough for mammals, the first thing they do is shut down their breeding cycle and they will refuse to breed. If they are nursing pups, if they have a litter of babies, mum will also shut down her lactation process, and if times are really tough, the young will starve to death. She will not produce any milk, so they sacrifice their own offspring in order for them to survive, to produce offspring on another day. Snakes are totally different. Because snakes do not provide parental care, their young do not suckle, their investment in time and energy is pretty much done when the eggs are laid. Their response to poor conditions, drought, lack of food, or just the general stress from breeding. Breeding is actually quite stressful for these animals, but when they produce cortisol, it actually encourages them to breed. Unlike mammals, which will shut down, reptiles will actually go on and try their best to give you a clutch of eggs, even if they cannot survive the process themselves. Snakes are exactly the reverse of mammals. Most reptiles will sacrifice themselves in order to produce a clutch of eggs, rather than just simply not breed. So it's a gross oversimplification to say they'll breed when they're ready. This is not nature. Nothing in this snake room resembles anything close to nature, and everything is under my control. It's up to me to make sure that the females are up to size and have sufficient reserves to carry them through that egg laying process. Otherwise, I could actually kill them trying to breed them. The stress hormone works in snakes such that they will do their level best to provide you with a clutch of eggs and will die in the process if you allow it. And I think that's a pretty poor outcome if you breed your snakes too early. We all know that it's possible to breed males to death. We hear of respiratory infections and males actually going off food and dying during the breeding season, and that is as a response to cortisol, the stress hormone. They will breed themselves to death if you allow them to do so. Females will do exactly the same. Their response to cortisol and the stress hormone is to do their level best to give you a clutch of eggs, even though they cannot hope to survive the process themselves. Not a good outcome, so I disagree strongly with that theory that snakes don't carry weighing scales and they breed when they're ready. That is simply not true. They will breed themselves to death, and it's up to us as keepers to make sure that we don't allow them to do that. So this female is coming up to size, and I need to get some more weight onto her. She has actually been eating extremely well. We'll continue that process in the run up to the breeding season, but this is a candidate for breeding next year. She is up to size. I'd like to see her get a little bit more size onto her before I pair her, and then hopefully once she's paired she'll go through that ravenous eating phase. And I actually like my first time females to reach a weight of about 2 kilos plus before they actually lay their eggs, so that when they have laid their eggs and lost 50% of their body weight, they're still at around 1 kilo in weight. I have bred snakes earlier than that, and I have had a female that weighed only 850 grams after laying her eggs, and she was in terrible condition. It was a pitiful sight to see her. The eggs survived, the eggs were good, and she actually did survive, but it was not pleasant, and that was an example of how close you can come to killing a female. She will give you a clutch of eggs and die in the process. So, this female, ready for breeding next season. Here's another one. This one is well over 2 years old, but she has been a picky eater for quite some time, and she's still too small. This female will not be paired this coming season because I consider that she is too small. Some people may attempt to breed her. She might well give a clutch of eggs, but the danger there is that it leaves her pitifully small. She doesn't lay a clutch of eggs then for 2 years after that, because it takes her so long to recover. So I'm holding off on this female, even though I am very keen to see what she will produce. This is one female that will not be bred this coming season. She's too small. And again guys, this is a female that does need to gain a little bit of weight. She's old enough, and this one is going to be touch and go. If she eats well coming up to the breeding season, I will look at pairing her. If she doesn't, we might have to hold off. Obviously I'm very keen to breed this girl. This is a yellow belly desert ghost female, and she is part of some longer term project plans, so we're waiting on this girl. We won't push her, we'll see how she goes, but we don't want to rush her into breeding when she's not quite ready. So there we have it guys, that's the end of the breeder series. An opportunity to ask some more questions if you want to, so jump down in the comments below if you have some more questions that you'd like me to tackle, and I will certainly share my experience with you. We have a lot to look forward to here at Royal Balls. The hatching season has yet to really take off, but for now we'll take a break from pairing our snakes. The snakes that go on to lay will go on to lay, and we'll take a couple of months off. Not that the snakes need that time, but we'll certainly take a respite for me, so that I don't have to focus on making sure my snakes are paired up on time. Resting snakes for 6 months applies to snakes that have laid eggs, but also to snakes that have slugged out. Even if a female slugs out, she has put effort and resources into producing those slugs. They just weren't fertilized, so she's going to take 6 months to recover from laying a batch of slugs as well. So don't underestimate how long it will take your females to recover from that. For females that didn't lay this year, that I expected to lay, or for females that clearly reabsorbed, they don't need quite so much time, but the principles of recovery and increasing food supply to stimulate the breeding response at the start of the breeding season still applies to those females too. It's just easier for me logistically to try and keep all my snakes at least a little bit in sync, although this season they've all taken their sweet times to ovulate and lay eggs. It is easier if you can keep things in sync. From a logistics point of view, it just makes managing your snake room that bit easier. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.